Just ahead on American Black Journal, Wayne County Community College District partners with Reverend Jesse Jackson's Rainbow Push to prepare Detroiters for the mobility workforce. Plus, playwright and Detroit native Dominique Morisseau talks about the prestigious award she just won. Don't go away. American Black Journal starts now.
Masco Corporation is proud to manufacture innovative and environmentally friendly products for the home. Delta faucets, craft-made in Merillat cabinets, and Behr brand paints have all been designed with you in mind. Masco and its family of companies, serving Michigan communities since 1929.
For nearly 100 years, Ally has been a part of Detroit, and we give back by volunteering and donating in our community. We have a commitment to diversity and increasing economic mobility in our hometown. At Ally, we're dedicated to doing it right every single day.
Welcome to American Black Journal. I'm Stephen Henderson. Reverend Jesse Jackson's Rainbow Push Global Automotive Summit recently wrapped up here in Detroit. Each year that conference reveals its automotive diversity scorecard. Ford Motor Company, General Motors, and Toyota had the highest rankings in 2018 for their commitment to diversity. There was also a surprise announcement at the summit regarding a new partnership between Rainbow Push and Wayne County Community College District. The nonprofit is teaming up with the college to create a hub for the mobility workforce right here in Metro Detroit.
We are very acutely concerned about training for the new automotive industry, the driverless vehicles, the new technology. Rainbow Push is forming a relationship with the Wayne County Community College on training a generation, the next generation, for the driverless cars. They'll be studying at Wayne College, at Wayne Community College, they'll be studying robotics, apps and codes and the whole range of electrification and the like. I really want Chairman John Gray to describe in a little more detail what this partnership means. When we work out the details, we hope to open it up within the next month or so. We must train. We cannot wait to bring folk in from the South, from the cotton fields, to be on the assembly line this time. This is another day. It must happen another way. It must happen quickly. John?
Yes. Thank you, Reverend. And just to be clear, it was the vision of Reverend Jesse Jackson to form this collaborative partnership with WCCD, which is Wayne County Community College District. They have 70,000 students on 7 campuses, and what we will provide in it was certification for their students to go through a program where they will be certified to work in the autonomous industry. Ford Motor Company is building actually they bought the train station. They're converting it to their autonomous headquarters, spending $740 million. And we will be 5 minutes away from them. But unless our workforce is retrained, they will not be in a position for the jobs of the future.
Joining me now is the Chancellor of Wayne County Community College District, Dr. Curtis Ivory. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Steve. It's certainly a pleasure and an honor.
Yeah, it's great to see you. This is a big deal. This is a big announcement. When people think about, I think, the mobility economy and getting people ready for it, they tend to think of the traditional 4-year universities and people getting bachelor's degrees and things like that. I don't think it automatically leaps into their minds that so much of this is about retraining and entry-level opportunities for young people, which is right in your sweet spot.
Absolutely, and everything is about now. For a while, we've been talking about the kind of training necessary for the future, and we've talked about the fact that about 60% of the jobs or more would require some form of education beyond high school. Now we know for sure that at 85% of the jobs will require some form of technical training, understanding the technology. And so we've moved into that space suddenly and somewhat quietly, and the future is now.
Yeah.
And so we've got to get it done.
So 70,000 students
Right,
on 7
right,
campuses.
right.
Talk about the kinds of opportunities this partnership will give for those students.
Well, let me say first of all that when we talk about 70,000, we're talking about that number of students annually, and we're talking about credit and non-credit. And so much now in the community college, it is a sweet spot for community colleges, let me say that, because community colleges are uniquely positioned and poised to provide non-traditional and sometimes traditional training.
Yeah.
And so we can be responsive to the extent other institutions can't be. So community colleges are uniquely prepared to do so. But in terms of the training that's necessary, the technology that we are going to be in a position to provide, we're just we're in the right place at the right time. We're talking about smart campuses, and we talk about our campuses. We're talking about on one campus we have about 97 acres of land prepared that we can use for smart campuses. So to create simulation or simulated tracks for the kind of training that's going to be necessary.
Rainbow Push is an organization that I think people are familiar with, mostly for civil rights work. Talk about their role here.
Well, they continue to be a very forceful social justice institution, and they've had a long, very positive relationship with the automotive industry. And we, as a region, we're in the epicenter in terms of the automotive workforce, and we represent a huge talent pool within this region. So it's about access, training, and then some level of certification.
Yeah.
But it's in terms of Rainbow Push and Reverend Jackson, it's really about diversity equals appropriate access. And we represent a tremendous opportunity in terms of providing the talent for those jobs that are going to be out there in the future.
Yeah. Talk about the students that you're seeing now and how they might be different from the students who might have been in school 30 years ago when I was going to college. I mean, as the economy changes, the needs and the pressures on community colleges have changed in terms of meeting those needs.
Absolutely, and I love answering that question because a lot of the perception is that we're still serving students directly out of high school, and nothing could be further from the truth. A lot of the students, I mean, the average age a few years ago was around 28. Now that average age has gone up tremendously, and a lot of it's retraining. People coming out of the workforce, who've been in the workforce for many, many years. And so, and then you also have reverse transfer students who've moved to university, now coming back to the community college for training. So suddenly we're seeing a different population, and it's certainly an older population for the first time.
Also talk about Wayne County Community College District and how that's a little different from Macomb or Oakland. You are in a unique demographic space as well.
And I think that states it extremely well. It's a unique demographic space. We serve a constituency unlike any other community college. We have a legitimate urban and suburban population mix, which is really it's a positive. I mean, there's a lot of energy that comes out of that, but we have to be willing to talk to the employers. We have to be willing to talk to the people, the representatives of the community that will tell us what kind of jobs, what the market's going to be like, what the jobs are going to be, and the student population. We have students that represent more than 60 or 70 different countries.
Wow.
It's one of the most diverse. It's almost like the United Nations if you ever have a chance to visit one of the campuses.
Yeah.
Tremendously diverse. Probably the most diverse in the country. We graduate more minorities than any other institution in the country, minority students, and that's tremendously exciting.
Yeah. This convergence also with the automotive industry, they're changing into a mobility industry. Bill Ford will say we need to be a mobility company, not an automotive company. Is it that fundamental a change as well for community colleges, this shift in our economy?
Yes and no. We saw it coming. We knew that we would have to. For example, cyber technology. We implemented that program about 2 years ago, and that's a program that we'll always have a waiting list for. We have an array of computer information technology classes or clusters. Those classes are always full. So the technology and the need for it, for that kind of training, has always been there.
You're sort of out front, maybe,
right.
economic
Probably
trend.
not knowing, because I don't think any of us had a clue about what autonomous vehicles would be about.
Right.
We heard about it, we read about it, but suddenly, sure, we know that the technology, we're talking about a level 3 technology, that's in place now.
Yeah.
So for this thing to really take off, the engineers are saying that they have to be at a level 4 technology, and that's just around the corner.
Yeah. Big news this week at the polls for Wayne County Community College District as well. That support is critical as well to the number of people you have and the stuff that you guys need to do.
I cannot tell you how large that on November the 6th was for our institution. We won by the largest margin ever. Our voters affirmed, our supporters affirmed their belief in us, that we've been moving in the right direction. We're going to continue to do so. We're so proud of our faculty and our staff and our supporters. We're talking about earlier. People in this region support education unlike any other region I've ever experienced. And we're the benefactors of that support.
Yeah. We've got about 30 seconds left. You are the author of 13 books, something I am extremely envious of for starters. But you're working on another one, right?
Yeah. Well, just completed a book, and it's. I have an interest in how do we encourage our young people to read, because I believe that reading is one of the fundamental winners. And if we can get young people to buy into the notion of reading, that's huge. But let me say, I don't want to take credit too much for the books. I have to credit my daughter, who's really the writer, and my son, who's also authored with me. But I mean, we're a family of writers, and so we're always working on projects. So I want to take credit for the 13 books, but I probably should share that credit with my daughter and son.
Yeah, that's very cool, though. All right, so great to have you here, and congratulations.
Thank you so much, Yvette.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Just ahead, a Detroit playwright creates a musical about Motown's temptations. But first, we continue our look back at this program over the last 50 years. Here's a 1993 Detroit Black Journal discussion about African-American auto dealers, led by host Cliff Russell.
Ed Davis became the first black dealer in the United States.
Where was that?
In Detroit.
In Detroit?
A Chrysler Plymouth dealer on Elmhurst Avenue.
I'm not going to say that.
That's not true. Of the big three. Of the big three.
Okay. Wait now. I want to hear your story too.
Well, Ed Davis, who we think is like the Jackie Robinson of the automobile business for us. And you've got to understand that this guy's first dealership was back in 1964. No, well, the Chrysler store.
47
for Studebakers. In 1947.
Ed Davis began selling Studebakers in 1947.
Was a dealer.
Was a dealer
In 1947.
Okay, now young people, old people, remember that. Now we've learned some history here.
You've got to understand that
1947 sold Studebakers.
In Detroit, I think the guy I used to work with, Al Merritt, was the first black to work in a franchise selling automobiles back in 1958, 59, off the showroom floor.
54. Al started, and when he started, this is a salesperson selling automobiles, was not permitted a desk on the showroom floor.
was not permitted a desk, yet he could sell cars and make money for the dealership.
He could go outside and find customers and bring them into the dealership, and he would sign them up in the service department. That's where we started from. That's our history in this business, and it's very short. And when we measure how far we've come from that beginning, which is 1955, with salespeople, 1964 for a big 3 manufacturers to grant a black a franchise, to 1993 today, we have indeed come a long way.
Detroit native Dominique Morisseau is a world-renowned playwright who just received a MacArthur Foundation Genius Grant. She has written several plays about Detroit's past and present. Her works deal with social and economic issues that influence the way we feel and the way we think. I had a chance to talk with Dominique at WDET Radio while she was in Detroit for a performance of her stage play, Pipeline.
Pipeline is actually a play about a mother, Naya, she's a public school teacher, but her son, Omari, goes to a private school.
Oh, I wasn't looking at her.
And there's actually an incident that happens at his private school.
You attacked your teacher. I pushed him, I didn't attack.
That sets him on the track for they might be pressing, for expulsion and potentially criminal charges being pressed against him. So what we're looking at through her world as an educator in the public school, and her passionate teacher, I call her a master educator.
Come on, Tiffany, you know what that means. Think about it.
And how she navigates the public school spaces, and how her son, is navigating the private school spaces.
What you gotta be observing for?
Take in my surroundings, learn the world, not be so caught up in my own existence and nothing else.
And so it's looking at, I would say, one of my director in New York, Liliana Blaine Cruz, she would always say that this is about two things. It's about, I think in the public school, we're looking at systemic failure often, you know?
But what do they know? Nothing. That's what. I know what these kids need.
Yeah. But in private school, we never talk about cultural failure. And that also can impact a young person's ability to thrive and grow in an educational environment.
What legacy you gonna leave now? Running away?
Those are two things that I think contribute, because no matter where, and it's particularly with young men of color, there's just not many spaces that they can occupy in their full emotionality.
He started singling me out, asking me to answer.
There's anger, or justified anger, righteous rage. There's no space for them, and it quickly will turn into criminalizing them, because we expect them to be compartmentalized humans, and this play is also looking at compartmentalized humanity and what happens when we do that to anyone.
Stupid question. All right.
Because it also was a relationship between Omari and his father. That's a pretty devastating relationship in the story, and not because he's an absent deadbeat father.
That's the hypothesis.
So we're not doing that trope, but there's a lot of other layers, and I think black masculinity that doesn't get a chance to get explored in story and narrative, but also in society that we're looking at in this story. It's looking at, young people's relationship to each other. There's a scene in the play that I know young people often love, which is between Omari's girlfriend and his mother. So Naya and her son's girlfriend.
I mean, I don't dislike you. That's like passive-aggressive, sort of.
That's an explosive relationship between, women of different generations and how they perceive each other. When people talk about education, and when they talk about, schools failing, they always talk about, in public school capacity particularly, they always talk about teachers failing the kids.
Right.
And then I go, okay, well, if that's happening, then who's failing the teachers?
Right.
Because guarantee there's a trickle down, and if you've never taught in a public school, you have no idea the challenges of what that system is like. And I taught in public school. My mother is a public school teacher in Highland Park for 40 years. I taught at Highland Park at Henry Ford Academy. When I first came out of college, I taught there for a full year. And I just think people that don't know what those teachers are up against should never be in a position to dictate the policy for them.
Yeah. So Pipeline was off Broadway last year.
That's right.
And your play Ain't Too Proud to Beg, which is about the
Just Ain't Too Proud. Yes, everybody calls it Ain't Too Proud to Beg because for obvious reasons. That's the name of the song. Right. I'm like cursing myself, like, why didn't I just call it? We're being clever and calling it Ain't Too Proud, but I could, I know people will call it Ain't Too Proud to Beg for the rest of our lives, and that's something we're gonna have to deal with.
Right. So, you should have just thrown those other two words into the title, right?
It works better for our show. When you see the show, you'll know why it's really called Ain't Too Proud.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that played, is going to play on Broadway next year.
That's right.
Talk about that thrill of seeing your work in that environment, but it's the pinnacle, I guess, in theater of where your work can be showcased.
Broadway has been coined the Great White Way for generations, and I think there's been an effort to not make it that, for generations. And so anytime you get work of this talent that I have in this show, which is we have a cast of 19, predominantly African American cast, on that stage, it's special to be able to be also, an African American woman book writer of a musical. Book writer is just meaning I wrote the script,
right.
like the play, the story to the show, and that's rare in and of itself. To be also from Detroit and to be taking a musical to Broadway, that's the first.
Yeah.
We have other Detroit playwrights who've been Broadway playwrights, but not necessarily with a musical.
Yeah.
And so that's, it's really exciting. And then there's, like I said, I'm in a very, unfortunately, small club of Black women who have been on Broadway as writers and especially writing for musicals. Although that's about to change. I've got some friends coming up with me
right?
really soon. Yeah, Katori Hall, who is also, she's a Broadway playwright. And she's a friend of mine, but now she has a Tina Turner musical that's coming to Broadway behind mine. And so, and I know several other women, Lynn Nottage and other friends who are also working on musicals. So that's going to change.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to be a part of that change with this show. It's really exciting, and this show, we're so proud of it. And we're so excited to be able to tell the Temptation story. We have Otis Williams is involved with the show.
Yeah.
And that, for people that don't know, Otis Williams is the last surviving
original,
member
right?
of the original Temps.
Yeah.
Yes. And I was just with him yesterday, actually.
Yeah.
And he's so excited. He loves our show, and we have his blessing, so that's the most important thing for us.
Let's talk about the MacArthur. What was it like to find out you'd won, and how did you find out?
So the how is really interesting because they you don't know that you're being submitted for it or nominated or anything. You have no idea. And so when they call to tell you that you've won it, it's like a random person trying to get in touch with you.
Like lightning strike or something, right?
It's like, and so when a random person tries to get in touch with me when I'm in a very busy season of my life, that's going to be difficult.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to help make it less difficult because I'm doing so many things. So I actually gave them a hard time to tell
like,
me
who is this
that I
person
won
calling me,
something.
right?
It's ridiculous, but that's what happened. It was someone cryptically was trying to get in touch with me, and I'm like, who is this? I don't know this person. And why are they acting like it's an emergency? I don't even know them. You know what I mean? Like, I can't respond to this emergency. I'm dealing with my own personal drama today. And so by the time they did get in touch with me, it took like several, like, hey, Dominique, I need you to call me.
You really need to call me back.
You really need to call me back. And I'm like, okay, everybody says you really need to call them. That doesn't mean anything. And then it got to, Dominique, we're not even supposed to say this, but I'm with a big organization. You really need to call me back. And then I was like, okay, wait, maybe I should.
This is maybe worth looking into.
Maybe worth looking into after they've tried to get in touch with me all day. Something's going on.
Yeah. It's one of the most interesting awards that you can win in the sense that it comes with no strings at all.
Yeah.
And the big question always is, well, so what do you do with it? There's a lot of money involved with that award, and I'm always curious what people think they might do. And it's really early, obviously. You may not have reached final decisions about a lot of that, but I'm curious.
I spent that whole 5 years.
Gone.
I got that. That's already spent. It's a lot. It's a lot, and it's over 5 years.
Yeah.
And which is great because that could just be like a salary to write for 5 years, or it could be, hey, I have a salary. I'm working some jobs right now, so this can be for development ideas. I have a lot of projects that I want to invest in. There's a lot of things I want to do here in Detroit, even though I don't live here anymore. My family lives here, so this will always be home. And I have to, I want to be part of Detroit's restoration and be a part of programs here and and property here, you know, so that's one thing,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
You know, and then there's other things, you know, I am an artist. I'm a filmmaker as much as I am a television writer and a playwright.
Right.
I want to shoot a short film here in Detroit. Now, I'm working with another Detroit filmmaker. He and I are trying to get together and figure out when we can actually come to Detroit to do this. But so those are some things that I want to invest in.
Is this a work of fiction, nonfiction?
This is a work of fiction.
Yeah.
It's based on a short story that I wrote called Giselle the Gazelle that looks at a young girl and her relationship to police violence with the young guys around her. I got plans.
Yeah, right. It sounds like you've given it some thought, right?
Yeah.
You can see my entire interview with Dominique Morisseau at dptv.org. That's our program for today. Thanks for watching. You can go to AmericanBlackJournal.org to get more information on our guests and to check out a calendar of upcoming events. And you can always connect with us on Facebook and on Twitter. We'll see you next time.
Masco Corporation is proud to manufacture innovative and environmentally friendly products for the home. Delta faucets, craft-made in Maryland cabinets, and Behr brand paints have all been designed with you in mind. Masco and its family of companies, serving Michigan communities since 1929.
For nearly 100 years, Ally has been a part of Detroit, and we give back by volunteering and donating in our community. We have a commitment to diversity and increasing economic mobility in our hometown. At Ally, we're dedicated to doing it right every single day.